If all goes according to plan, by December this year, 2019, the Huduma Namba will become compulsory by law. Now, I don't want to tell you I told you so. I don't. But if you followed my earlier videos on this channel about the mysterious Huduma Namba, then you'll completely understand. Admittedly, there are Kenyans who will never understand. Because they keep on reminding me that other countries also have a number. But hey, I have news for you. The Huduma Namba is not the social security number United States citizens have, or people residing in the United States. And so, comparing the two is not possible. Anyway, I'll come to that later in tonight's show. I will also discuss the shocking news from a leading supermarket in Kenya, or rather from leading supermarkets in Kenya, who have some ways of preserving red meat that is actually harmful to people's health. And of course, all these manenos has emerged from an excellent expose, investigative journalism at its best, by NTV's Dennis Okari. Just when some Kenyans were very sure that investigative journalism in Kenya died a long time ago, Dennis has come up and reminded us that we are wrong. There are a few journalists who are still very much awake. Kudos, Bwana Okari. I wish there were more people like you. Now we'll come to that story also later on in this show. But first of all, let's start with an update. Former KTN news anchor and lawyer Esther Arunga has been sentenced to 10 months in prison, but then was immediately released on parole. Now, this is an offense under Australian law that attracts a maximum of 25 years in prison. So what happened here? Obviously, this has plea bargain written all over it. You make a deal with the prosecution. I'll tell you exactly what happened. In exchange for a much lighter sentence. Bottom line, if Miss Arunga strictly adheres to the conditions of the parole, she will never see the inside of a prison. Indeed, she has a great chance to rebuild her life. And I'm sure most Kenyans of goodwill are very happy that things have turned out much, much better than they would have turned out. Yes, she has a criminal record now, but hey, that beats 2 decades in the cooler by far. And I'm sure this super talented high achiever can bounce back and rebuild her life. Now, before we come back to Kenya, there's some super fascinating developments in our neighboring country, Tanzania. I believe somebody saw what leaked audios are doing in Kenya and decided to copy the same in Tanzania. The intelligence community in that country, Usalama wa Taifa, have released a recording of a telephone conversation between 2 politicians, and then they've labeled it a plot to overthrow the government of John Pombe Magufuli. While in actual fact, if you listen to the audio, the two are discussing ways of protesting against some certain excesses of the John Pombe Magufuli government. And again, this reminds me of the 80s in Kenya, under the dictatorial government of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. And one of the strategies of remaining in power, what you simply do is you take opposition to your government and repackage it as a plan to violently overthrow your regime. But for this show, I would like to focus more on what is happening behind the scenes. Now, one of the people in the said audio has very strong links to a former president of Tanzania. Now, the way things work in Tanzania politically is that former presidents have a lot of clout, especially within the ruling CCM political party. Now, some of these former presidents are not happy with the way things are going in the country. Now, of course, they cannot come out and issue a public statement condemning the president and a member of their own political party. They can't do that. But in fact, there have been rumors in Tanzania for a very long time that past presidents are not happy with the government of John Pombe Magufuli and the way he's managing the country. And these rumors have been persistent. And now, there is a possible, very dramatic possibility being floated. And it is this, that when the president, John Pombe Magufuli, presents himself for re-election, his own CCM party may not want to support him to run for a second term. Pressure may be put on him by the party organs, especially the previous presidents of the country, to step down and not run for a second term. And of course, what will happen in public is that the president may come out and say that due to various reasons, personal reasons, he will not contest for re-election. Indeed, these past presidents are responsible for making Magufuli the president today. How so? They blocked a powerful opponent from being the CCM flag bearer, and that is Edward Lowassa. Lowassa had unanimous backing from the delegates to be the CCM flag bearer. But the then president, Jakaya Kikwete, influenced the past presidents to be able to disqualify Lowassa from the list of people who were running from the CCM ticket for the presidency in 2015. Lowassa, of course, then crossed over to the opposition and still ended up running for the presidency. But you know what happened? He did not succeed. So you cannot take this Wazee lightly, and especially former President Benjamin Mkapa. For those who have listened to the leaked audio, there is talk that actually Mkapa has been trying to see John Pombe Magufuli over how he is running the country. Now, the presidential elections are due next year, which by the way is just a few months away. At least the CCM Delegates Conference to confirm John Pombe Magufuli as the CCM candidate for that election is barely a few months away. And so, for those following East African politics, this is going to be super fascinating. And for those who like to look into politics a little deeper, here's a gem for you. Now, the case of Kikwete and Lowassa is extremely similar to the current situation we have in Kenya of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Samoei Ruto. How so? Now, when Kikwete won the presidency in Tanzania in 2005, he made a deal with Edward Lowassa. Indeed, Kikwete would never have made it without Lowassa's support. And of course, the deal, this is going to sound very familiar. Kikwete was going to support Lowassa, and when Kikwete finished his term, he would back Lowassa for the presidency of Tanzania. But shortly after Kikwete became president, the two fell out, and they became bitter political rivals. So much so that when Kikwete was leaving power, he did not, under any circumstances, want Lowassa to take over the presidency, and did everything in his power to ensure Lowassa would not be president of Tanzania. Now, here's the interesting part. For those who may want to predict what will happen in Kenya, what happened in Tanzania is that a nobody came from nowhere, somebody who was nowhere near the front runners, and ended up as president. And that person is John Pombe Magufuli. So the question is, will the same happen in Kenya? Let's wait and see. Now on to Kenya. And before we dive into the Huduma Namba manenos, let us take a quick peek at what Kenyans are talking about currently. The news that has taken Kenya by storm, resulting from an expose by nation's Dennis Okari. The long and short of it is that some leading supermarkets in Kenya are using preservatives in excess quantities to keep their meat fresh in the supermarkets. And what happened today is that the governors of Nairobi and Machakos counties withdrew the sale of meat, red meat, at Naivas supermarket branches in their counties. The supermarket chain, one of the largest in Kenya, has responded by withdrawing red meat from all their countrywide branches. And they're blaming the suppliers. And yet Dennis Okari's expose revealed to us how supermarkets in the country, a certain supermarket, which was not named in the expose, a certain supermarket is actually using the preservatives themselves. Now the worry amongst Kenyans, or rather the horror amongst Kenyans, is that use of large quantities of these preservatives is very harmful to the health. It can cause various diseases, mostly respiratory diseases. But not only that, in the long term, they can also cause cancer. Now, growing up, I remember I used to see cancer in movies. There'd be a storyline where somebody's suffering from cancer. Doctors have given them 3 months, 6 months to live. And all that was in the movies. Many Kenyans had no idea what cancer was all about. But look what has happened in Kenya in recent years. Cancer has become widespread. And many people believe, have believed for some time, that it all has to do with what Kenyans eat these days. I remember growing up, fridges were very rare. If you had a fridge, you had to be a very rich person. Of course, that's not true, but that's the image Kenyans had. And everything was sold fresh. The situation today has, of course, dramatically changed. And this latest expose just reveals how bad things have gotten. Because traders want to preserve whatever they have for as long as possible so as to increase sales. And I guess, at least for some of them, in their bid to make profits, the health of their consumers has become not so important, or at least not as important as their profits. This is, of course, a developing story, but you can be sure that the way things will end up, it is going to have far-reaching impact on the country. In my view, it's going to have a ripple effect on so many things in the country. But I believe the expose was good. Will save a few lives, if not many. And that has to be a good thing. Now on to the Huduma Namba manenos. Now, it is very important for Kenyans to note that the Huduma Namba in Kenya is copied from a similar system in China. And of course, the system in China disregards some fundamental human rights. And it is very instructive that in the initial legislation over the Huduma Namba, one of the requirements was for citizens to give their DNA to the government. Now, the way laws are passed in Kenya is that the small print is hidden. And as the bill is publicized on the few occasions that it is made public, the serious cards, if I can put it like that, are always under the table, well hidden under the table. Fortunately, this time round, the Huduma Namba manenos have attracted so much attention from Kenyans that it will be impossible to hide any part of the bill when it's presented to the public, for debate and input, as is required by law. But of course, that doesn't stop those promoting the Huduma Namba from feeding false information and outright lies to Kenyans. Like, oh, the Huduma Namba is just normal. In fact, this thing is all over the world. Even the social security number in the US is exactly similar to the Huduma Namba. You have to give information. You have to give your DNA, etc., etc. This is what's happening in the US. So there's nothing wrong with the Huduma Namba. In fact, the Huduma Namba will enable the government to develop the country rapidly, etc., etc. Well, my hope and prayer is that Kenyans will ask the right questions this time round. And top on the list should be the question, why was a pastor in Kilifi arrested for condemning the Huduma Namba? After all, he was expressing his opinion without injuring or endangering any other citizen. And the last time I checked, freedom of expression is amongst the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. In fact, it is obvious that the Huduma Namba, as far as the government is concerned, is a very sensitive issue. And that is why a lot of the inside information about it I only discuss in my latest Club 1999 video. And when you take in this video, you will understand precisely why it is sensitive to the government. If you're not yet a member, I believe you can see details on your screens right now on exactly what you need to do to become a member instantly. Now, it is very sad in Kenya that the general public looks up to leading politicians to guide them when it comes to certain laws being proposed. Even the new constitution, supporters of Raila Odinga said they did not need to read it. As long as Raila had read it for them, Raila Odinga, and said it was okay, then it was okay. In my view, this is extremely dangerous. Because, for instance, with the Huduma Namba, Raila Odinga told his supporters, it is okay, people should take the Huduma Namba. And we're under the handshake dispensation, which means that anything and everything the government puts on the table, ODM supports. And ODM was the main opposition party before the handshake. And so at the moment, we do not have any opposition outfit that can say no to the government on behalf of the Kenyan people. Very sad and very dangerous, whatever side of the political divide you belong. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.